New York City is filled with iconic attractions any tourist would want to do and see in their lifetime. Take a stroll through Central Park, look out from the top of the Empire State Building, and marvel at the energy of Times Square. But we often overlook the fact that many iconic places disappear every year, leaving us with a sense of regret for not having had the chance to experience them. From buildings people thought would never go away, to places a few of you might remember fondly from your childhood, we'll look at 10 New York City tourist attractions that you might have forgotten or ones that vanished that you didn't even know about. Be sure to stick around for the last one, as he played a key role in building Disneyland and then went on to compete against Walt Disney himself with a theme park in the Bronx. Original Penn Station. Imagine stepping off the train to find yourself in a stunning building that feels like you're in ancient Rome. Completed in 1910, the original Pennsylvania station spanned 8 acres from 31st to 33rd Street and from 7th to 9th Avenue. This Beaux-Arts masterpiece, that's a fancy term, drew inspiration from the grand architecture of Europe. The marvel featured wide hallways, soaring arched windows, and a main waiting room inspired by the Roman baths of Caracalla. It served as the primary entry point for visitors arriving in Manhattan, welcoming everyone from everyday commuters to celebrities, and many considered it the most beautiful train station in the world. By the 1940s, new options like the Lincoln Tunnel, Greyhound buses, and the Port Authority gave travelers other ways to reach Manhattan. Ridership plummeted and vagrants replaced commuters. The station was losing revenue and couldn't afford to be maintained. Soon, the beautiful structures fell into disrepair, covered with plastic tarps, and became an eyesore. Facing financial hardship, Penn Station sold its air rights to make room for Madison Square Garden. Even though many people protested, the station was demolished in 1963. While the original beauty is gone, the underground platforms remain beneath Madison Square Garden. The area's been renewed, and travelers now arrive at the Moynihan Train Hall with dignity.
Night and day, the magnificent maidens who once marked time's passage now sit grime-covered and forgotten in a park in New Jersey.
1939 New York World's Fair. Have you ever dreamed of what cities of tomorrow might look like? After the Great Depression, America wanted to show the world a hopeful future. The 1939 New York World's Fair in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park, Queens did just that. Visitors saw the towering Trylon and the Perisphere, which displayed a model city of the future. The fair featured new technology from big companies like RCA's first public TV demo, General Motors' Futurama, and even Westinghouse's smoking robot. President Franklin Roosevelt opened the fair, and Albert Einstein attended the Jewish Palestine Pavilion dedication with his stepdaughter Margot on his lap. The fair not only gave us a glimpse of the future, but it also showcased different cultures, as more than 60 countries exhibited their pavilions, and even elephants were there. The fair attracted approximately 44 million visitors over 2 seasons. The fair closed after 1940 because it was simply unprofitable. The fair cost $156 million to put on. Much of the fair structures were torn down, with their steel and materials going toward World War II production. The World's Fair held its second fair in Queens, New York again 24 years later in 1964. Today, the only remnant of the 1939 World's Fair is the Queens Museum, which was built as the New York City Pavilion for the fair. If you visit, there are plenty of things to see, such as the 1964 Unisphere, the New York Hall of Science, and the sprawling Flushing Meadows Corona Park.
Yes, and to cavort and make merry throughout the 1,200 acres of the World's Fair grounds.
Studio 54. Picture yourself in your 20s, dressed up and excited to visit the hottest nightclub in New York City. But even then, getting inside wasn't a sure thing. In a former CBS studio, entrepreneurs Stephen Rubel and Ian Schrager opened Studio 54 in 1977. The club became the epicenter of New York City nightlife, drawing thousands nightly. Known for its exclusive door policy, only a select few made it past the velvet rope. If you were a celebrity, you were in. Regulars included Diana Ross, Andy Warhol, Michael Jackson, Mick Jagger and his wife Bianca Jagger, who famously rode in on a white horse. Studio 54's wild days lasted just 3 years. It closed in 1980 after its owners were convicted of tax evasion. New owners reopened a subtle version from 1981 to 1986. Today, the Roundabout Theater Company operates where Studio 54 once stood, producing Broadway and off-Broadway shows where disco once reigned supreme. Coney Island amusement parks. Do you remember the thrill of amusement parks or the state fair when you were a kid? Although not the first amusement parks in America, Luna Park and Dreamland in Coney Island were the place to be. Opened in 1903 by two entrepreneurs, Frederick Thompson and Elmer Skip Dundee, Luna Park dazzled with exotic towers, fantastical rides, and over 200,000 electric lights. Check out this footage shot by Thomas Edison himself. One of the big attractions was a trip to the moon. Shoot the Chutes was a thrilling water ride where people slid down a ramp and into a lagoon. Check out this roller coaster called the Scenic Spiral Wheel that spun like a top. Real estate developer William H. Reynolds saw what was happening and decided he was going to one-up Luna Park and open Dreamland right next door in 1904. It was even bigger and more impressive. Attractions included Creation, which showed how Earth began, and wouldn't you like to see Hellgate for only a dime? There was even a fire and rescue show called Fighting the Flames, where performers jumped from burning buildings as part of the act. Can you imagine people doing this every day as a job? Yikes! Millions of people visit Coney Island and the amusement parks every year. Unfortunately, the fun didn't last as Dreamland burned to the ground in 1911 after only 7 years. Luna Park survived longer even through the Depression until it too went down in flames in 1944. Luna Park reopened in 2010, offering modern rides and safety standards. Take a walk along the boardwalk and beach and it's not hard to feel the excitement of the golden age of Coney Island. Ebbets Field. Don't you love the sight of vast green grass, the crack of a bat, and the roar of the crowd? For millions of Brooklyn Dodgers fans, Ebbets Field was their church, and they prayed this year would be the year their team became world champions. Ebbets Field opened in 1913, built by owner Charles Ebbets just east of Prospect Park, Brooklyn. The stadium seated over 30,000 fans and featured a distinctive rotunda entrance, a famous right field wall 297 feet from home plate, and the Schaefer beer scoreboard. If you were a Brooklynite in the 40s through the 50s, you couldn't help but be a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. The park drew hundreds of thousands of passionate fans annually, hoping this would be their year. The Dodgers went to the World Series 5 times and lost to their crosstown rivals, the New York Yankees, 4 times before defeating them in the 1955 World Series. Dodgers legends included Jackie Robinson, who broke the color barrier in 1947, Sandy Koufax, Duke Snider, Pee Wee Reese, and Roy Campanella. Brooklyn Dodgers owner Walter O'Malley's decision to move the franchise to Los Angeles devastated loyal Dodger fans in 1957. Today, Ebbets Field Apartments occupy the site, with a plaque in the shape of home plate marking the Dodgers' former home.
And, my father obviously became a Met fan, but he was still partial to the Dodgers. He grew up there. There's Ralph Houck sulking after getting swept in 4.
Savoy Ballroom. Uptown in Harlem, there was no better place to show off your moves than this legendary spot. The Savoy Ballroom opened in 1926 during the Roaring Twenties on Lenox Avenue in Harlem. This legendary ballroom, located on the 2nd floor, stretched an entire city block from 140th to 141st Street. To Harlem, it was known as the Track due to its long and thin shape. To most people, it was known as Home of Happy Feet, featuring 2 bandstands that kept the music going and a 10,000 square foot mahogany dance floor, which had to be replaced every 3 years due to wear and tear. People didn't care if you were black or white. All they wanted to know was, can you dance? The Savoy was the birthplace of the Lindy Hop, where you swung your partner around. You won't see that on TikTok. The Cat's Corner showcased the best dancers, while Battle of the Bands competitions became legendary jazz events. The classy and upscale venue attracted about 700,000 people during peak years, operating every night of the week with ladies' free nights on Monday. Every major jazz and swing musician performed there, including Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Benny Goodman, Chick Webb, and Ella Fitzgerald. The Savoy even had an exhibit in the 1939 World's Fair showcasing its cultural significance. The Savoy closed in 1958 due to urban renewal and the rise of rock and roll. Today, a historical marker stands in the Savoy Park Apartments housing complex. Singer Building. Although not designed to accommodate tourists like visiting at One World Observatory today, people could admire the world's once tallest building from the outside. The Singer Building was completed in 1908 for the Singer Sewing Machine Company. Standing 612 feet with 41 stories in Lower Manhattan, it briefly held the world's tallest building title before being surpassed a year later by the MetLife Tower just east of Madison Square Park. It became an architectural marvel that appeared in countless newspapers, magazines, and postcards as a symbol of American industrial success. Although you couldn't visit the building inside, at least from these photos, you can tell the lobby was grand with intricate features, soaring high ceilings, and archways. The lucky few who got to visit this building gem were employees, business executives, and their associates. By the 1960s, the Singer Building faced typical problems plaguing older buildings, such as unreliable elevator service and maintenance issues. It was outdated and struggled to attract tenants. Surrounding buildings offered more spacious and modern amenities. Not without a fight from preservationists, sadly, the building was demolished in 1968, becoming the tallest voluntarily demolished building. Today, it's One Liberty Plaza, a typical office building.
Its neo-Gothic elegance and intricate detailing captured the imagination of generations.
Madison Square Gardens. New York City wouldn't be New York City without entertainment, and what better place to have it than just above downtown Manhattan. The site that used to be a train depot, which moved further up to become Grand Central Station, wasn't initially called Madison Square Garden. In 1874, P.T. Barnum leased the land and opened the Great Roman Hippodrome. Just 3 years later, it was renamed Gilmore Garden. Cornelius Vanderbilt owned the site, and after he died in 1879, his grandson William Vanderbilt renamed it Madison Square Garden across the street from Madison Square Park. It was an open-air arena hosting everything from circuses and bicycle racing to the first Westminster Kennel Club dog show. Though it was a popular venue with a 10,000-seat capacity, the lack of a roof limited attendance during bad weather, and it was eventually torn down in 1889. Vanderbilt sold MSG to a syndicate of the wealthiest men in the country that included J.P. Morgan, Andrew Carnegie, and William Waldorf Astor. The second Madison Square Garden was designed by the famous architect Stanford White and opened a year later in 1890 on the same site. The 8,000-seat arena was a cultural centerpiece, hosting boxing, circuses, and even indoor football. Despite its popularity, it struggled financially and was demolished in 1925 to make way for the New York Life Building. In 1925, the third MSG, led by boxing promoter Tex Rickard and backed by a group of investors, found a new home on 8th Avenue between 49th and 50th Streets. This version was basically a square box with a fancy marquee. It seated 18,000 and became home to the New York Rangers, the Knicks, as well as countless boxing matches that defined the golden age of the sport. It even hosted an anti-Nazi and a pro-Nazi rally in 1937-39, respectively. In '68, MSG moved over to the current and fourth Madison Square Garden above Penn Station, where the old Penn Station once stood. A year later, a former MSG building was demolished, and it is now One Worldwide Plaza, a typical office building.
Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you.
New York Aquarium. Do you remember how fun it was going on field trips to the local aquarium? Before Ellis Island, Castle Clinton, also known as Castle Gardens at the very tip of Manhattan, welcomed immigrants to America, but not before hosting concerts, exhibitions, and various events. Its original function was a fort known as Fort Clinton on the run-up to the War of 1812 against the British, but it never saw action. The original New York Aquarium opened in 1896, housed in the historic Castle Clinton building and steps from New York Harbor. Operated by the New York Zoological Society, the facility became one of America's first public aquariums, featuring tanks displaying and housing thousands of fish, marine mammals, and other aquatic creatures. Admission to the aquarium was always free. Yes, schools did take field trips to the aquarium just like when you were a kid. Educational programs sparked children's minds about life in the sea. Marine biologists and conservationists frequently visited to study the aquatic specimens in their local operations. The aquarium saw approximately 2 million visitors a year, making it one of the city's most popular attractions. The aquarium closed in 1941 when Robert Moses, the New York City Parks Commissioner at the time, targeted Castle Clinton to be demolished as part of the construction of the nearby Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. After an almost decade-long battle between the city-state, federal government, and preservationists, the city ultimately deeded the land in Castle Clinton to the federal government. Today, the New York Aquarium has been in its Coney Island location since 1957. Castle Clinton is a national monument managed by the National Park Service. It houses a small museum and the Statue of Liberty ferry ticket office. Warning, if you do plan to visit New York City and you want to see the Statue of Liberty, do not buy tickets from people on the street. Get them from the ticket office inside Castle Clinton.
I am at a place called Battery Park. Beautiful green space, and wonderful views of New York Bay as well. This is New York in 1812.
Freedomland USA. Imagine a place where you and your family can journey through American history in an amusement park. After the opening of Disneyland, the chief developer of Disneyland, C.B. Wood Jr., and Walt Disney had a falling out over who deserved credit for creating Disneyland. Walt fired Wood, and Wood went to work on building his own theme park empire, which included Pleasure Island in Massachusetts and Six Flags over Texas. The third was Freedomland USA, which opened in 1960 in Baychester, Bronx. It was Wood's East Coast answer to Disneyland, focusing on American history and patriotic themes, especially during the height of the Cold War. The 205-acre theme park was designed loosely in the shape of the continental United States, with themed areas representing various regions. Visitors could ride horse-drawn trolleys in Old New York, kids could pump the water to put out fires in 1871 Chicago, pet farm animals in the Great Plains, experience an earthquake in San Francisco, see a Western shootout in the Old Southwest, go raiding with buccaneers in New Orleans, and finally ride in Braniff's spaceship in Satellite City. With all these fun activities, what kid wouldn't want to go to Freedomland USA? The park was a hit with families and averaged 2 million visitors per season. Check it out, even Moe, Larry, and Curly of the Three Stooges were there. Despite all the fun, Freedomland was not profitable, as it was $8 million in debt by the end of the second season. It didn't help that they couldn't operate year-round during brutally cold winters. Freedomland filed for bankruptcy and closed after the 1964 season after just 4 years. They blamed the 1964 World's Fair as the direct cause of their closure. Today, Co-op City, one of the world's largest cooperative housing developments, occupies the site. There you have it. Did we miss any? If so, let us know in the comments and we'll make another video. If you remember any of these places, definitely leave a comment. If you enjoyed the video, watch another one. YouTube thinks you'll enjoy this one next.